Good morning. This is the first Sunday in the new year 2016, January 3rd, 2016. Good morning to all my followers on the Anthony Taylor Poetry Show YouTube, episode number 7. Thank God, episode number 7. Today I am happy to read my poem entitled, which is a villanelle entitled DeBarge. DeBarge. I like it. I like it. I really like it. How many of us who were here during the 1980s remember this song and the group who used to sing it? DeBarge. What a group that was during the 1980s. I like it. Time will reveal and can't stop. If I remember the song correctly, were some great hits for the group back in the 1980s. DeBarge, a group nurtured and sponsored by Motown Records, headed by Mr. Berry Gordy himself. DeBarge had the young people of the 1980s on their feet dancing and breakdancing to the new beat of Motown during the 1980s. Oh, what a delight to hear these young people on the radio keeping the Motown legend alive and well. DeBarge reminded me a little bit of Gladys Knight and the Pips during the late 1960s and early 1970s. DeBarge had both sexes in their group, like Gladys Knight and the Pips had both sexes in their group. DeBarge lead singer was a male. Gladys Knight and the Pips lead singer was a female. Gladys Knight and the Pips had monster hits like I Heard It Through the Grapevine, The End of the Road, The Nitty Gritty, Friendship Train, and so many more hits during their heyday. DeBarge had monster hits during the 1980s. Both groups symbolized the power and influence of Berry Gordy, who was the founder of Motown Records. Berry Gordy set trends concerning pop music during each generation of young people. Berry Gordy continued the tradition well into the 1980s and early 1990s until he sold his music empire. DeBarge. I remember the teenage girls going crazy over the lead singer of DeBarge in the 1980s. I believe his first name was Johnny. He was tall, somewhat attractive. He had a savvy and sexy voice that made girls and women suave over him. I remember seeing the group for the first time on the TV special Motown 25. DeBarge on Motown 25 with the other giants from the golden years of Motown Record Corporation. The old acts mixed in with the new acts. DeBarge and Madonna were both on the pop scene in the 1980s. Like Madonna, DeBarge also sang about sex. Sex was the topic during the early and mid-1980s. DeBarge came out with a sensational song which allured to the topic of the day, sex. The song was entitled I Like It. I Like It was a different song than All My Love Is Waiting for You, which I believe was the song which propelled DeBarge to fame and superstardom. I Like It not only suggested sex and lovemaking, but you should enjoy both at the same time because it's a natural function to be loved and have sex. I Like It, in the middle of the song, had a very sensual, suggestive musical arrangement which prompted you to act upon your impulses when you heard the lyrics and the arrangements together. DeBarge and their monster hits continue to influence their peers and fans within the 1980s decade. Another song that I enjoyed, sung by DeBarge, was Time Will Reveal. This song had a slow tempo with a moderate beat. The lead singer sounded if he were pleading for time to reveal his true love and feelings towards his lover. The beginning of the song had a slow opening with the slow tempo, and you can hear the lead singer singing Time Will Reveal with the background singers supporting the lead singer with their vocals in harmony. What was happening during the 1980s when DeBarge was singing their hits? Ronald Reagan was the President of the United States. War Games, The Right Stuff, and Cocoon were playing in the movie houses across the United States. Concerning technology, the invention of the Walkman allowed people to listen to their music from their cassette tapes. Whether it was walking down the streets or waiting for the bus, people were carrying their Walkmans and listening to their music. The 1980s saw a rise in the numbers of homeless people within the United States and also within the nation's capital. Washington, D.C. As a worker in the nation's capital, it was very disturbing to see people sleeping on grates in front of buildings, sleeping in parks, abandoned buildings, and yards. The homeless population hit an all-time high during the 1980s. I was blessed to have various jobs to sustain me while America was facing this crisis. Getting back to DeBarge, they symbolized the last great act to be on the Motown label. During the 1980s, Motown continued its powerful legacy of talent and stars like Stevie Wonder, Lionel Richie, Tina Marie, Rick James, DeBarge, and William Smokey Robinson. All of the acts of the 1980s had successful hits like their predecessors of the 1970s and 1960s. I will never forget Tina Marie's monster hit Square Business. It took the disco world by storm. Tina Marie, I'm talking Square Business. Square Business. What a song that was when it premiered on the radio. I still remember the effects of that song today, some 34 years later. Rick James was one of Motown's superstars. He was a mixture of the old James Brown blending in with the influence of the Motown sound, which was geared towards the white audience. Rick James' music consisted of funk, rhythm and blues, and disco. What an act Rick James were, especially with his backup singers, the Mary Jane Girls. It just dawned on me, Mary Jane Girls had a couple of hits too. It's My House, My House. If you think, what a hit it were when the Mary Jane Girls sung this song. Rick James knew what he was doing when he made these girls his backup singers. The Motown sound was well alive during the 1980s. It was not like the 1960s, but it was still vibrant. DeBarge, Motown in the 1980s made their impact when they were present on the scene. DeBarge and myself, like Madonna, made impressionable imprints on the decade of the 1980s. I graduated from college with a BA from the School of Liberal Arts. I worked my first career job in Upper Northwest Washington, D.C. I received my paralegal certificate from Long Island University, Brooklyn campus in the year 1988. Both DeBarge and Madonna continue to have hit songs. DeBarge, I will never forget that group from the 1980s. They influenced a generation. DeBarge, Berry Gordy's Final Salute, to the days when his acts used to attend Motown finishing school to shine among the stars within the universe. That concludes the reading of my poem, The Villanelle DeBarge. I hope to see you in another 2 weeks. Have a blessed and happy new year, and I hope to see everyone soon. Thank you.